What if everything you thought about intelligence, its value, its power, its promise of a better life, was completely flipped? What if being smart, or even aiming for genius, wasn't the gift we make it out to be, but actually a heavy load to carry, even a curse that brings more pain than joy? Stick with me, because by the time we're done here, you might start questioning whether being intelligent is even something you want. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the boldest and most misunderstood philosophers in history, had a take on intelligence that still rattles people today. He didn't see it as a blessing, but as something dangerous, something that could steal your peace, happiness, and maybe even your ability to enjoy life at all. Today, we'll unpack his take on intelligence, what he saw that others missed, and why it might totally change how you look at your own mind and the world around you. Schopenhauer knew life wasn't easy. Born in 1788, he lived through a time filled with chaos, loss, and deep disappointment. While other thinkers around him dreamed about progress and reason, he dove into the darker, messier parts of being human. He wasn't about sugarcoating things or selling feel-good lies about human potential. Instead, he laid out uncomfortable truths, one of the most shocking being the true cost of being smart. To Schopenhauer, intelligence wasn't just about solving problems or storing facts. It was a mixed bag. On one hand, it could take you to incredible places. On the other, it could drag you into deep sadness. The more intelligent someone was, he argued, the more clearly they saw life's pain. Ever feel like the more you understand the world, the more disconnected or hopeless it feels? That's exactly the trap he pointed out. Here's the weird twist. Intelligence gives us clarity, but it also makes us hyper-aware of everything that's wrong. The more you get it, the more you see the cracks. You notice how our lives are filled with fake promises, endless desires that never really satisfy, successes that fade fast, and losses that are bound to happen. And while that clarity can be powerful, it can also make you feel lonely, anxious, and numb to the joys of life. This idea ties into what later thinkers like Kierkegaard and Sartre called existential dread. The smarter you are, the more you realize how little the universe actually cares, and that realization hits hard. Schopenhauer thought intelligent people felt this more than others. They're more likely to be haunted by the big, scary questions and less likely to find comfort in simple things. Does that mean intelligence is bad? Not quite. Schopenhauer didn't say we should ditch it. He just wanted us to understand that it's a tool, not a cure-all. Too many smart people, he said, rely on their brains to find happiness. But happiness doesn't come from thinking. It comes from peace, from calm, from being okay with not having all the answers. Think about how often your thoughts keep you up at night. How many times you've replayed something over and over in your head, looking for meaning or closure that never shows up. That's the downside of intelligence, a mind that won't shut off, even when there's nothing left to figure out. So, what do? Should we try to be less smart? Stop asking questions? Not really. Schopenhauer's advice was actually pretty down to earth. He believed we could keep our intelligence, but needed to learn how to live with it. The trick, he said, was finding inner peace. That means letting go of the need to control or understand everything and learning to sit with uncertainty. He thought peace came from two big things. First, accepting that suffering is part of life, not trying to avoid it, not pretending it doesn't exist, just living with it. And second, realizing that no matter how clever we are, there will always be things we can't figure out. And that's okay. Coming to terms with this can release us from the never-ending chase for certainty. Schopenhauer encouraged us to stop looking for meaning in huge accomplishments or intellectual victories, and instead find it in life's small, fleeting moments of beauty and connection. A sunset, a favorite song, a quiet talk with someone close. These are the real gems of life, and even the sharpest minds can't improve upon them. But here's where it gets interesting. Schopenhauer believed the deepest form of peace came from letting go of the very thing that craves control and understanding: your sense of self. This bold idea, influenced by Eastern philosophies like Buddhism, suggests that by stepping beyond the ego, we can escape the never-ending cycle of wanting and suffering that our intellect tends to amplify. So, what does this mean for you? How do Schopenhauer's thoughts on intelligence relate to your own life? Take a second and think. Has your sharp mind or constant urge to analyze ever made you feel more drained than happy? Have you ever wished you could just hit pause on your thoughts and find peace in simply existing? If so, you're not alone. This is something worth talking about, so feel free to share your thoughts. It's a conversation we should be having. And remember, this is only the beginning of Schopenhauer's deeper message about intelligence. What comes next might shift how you see not just your thoughts, but your entire life. Let's dive into another layer of his thinking. Why he believed intelligence so often leads to deep loneliness. To understand this, we need to talk about a key part of his philosophy: the will to live. For Schopenhauer, this will isn't some noble force. It's a blind, unstoppable drive, pushing all living things to survive, reproduce, and strive, no matter how much pain it causes. This drive doesn't care about our happiness. It's relentless, irrational, and completely indifferent to how we feel. In Schopenhauer's words, we're all stuck serving this will, caught in a never-ending loop of wanting and disappointment. Now, this is where intelligence starts to matter. Someone less intellectually inclined might just go along with this will, chasing after desires without questioning why. But the more intelligent you are, the more likely you are to spot the pattern, that no matter how much you achieve or acquire, it's never enough. You start seeing through the illusion that fulfilling desires brings lasting happiness. But this clarity has a downside. It can drive a wedge between you and others. How do you connect with people who are content with surface-level things when you're burdened by deeper truths? This kind of awareness can make you feel like a bystander in life, not really part of the crowd, just watching it all from the outside. It's a heavy feeling, like carrying knowledge most people don't even want to face. Truths about how short and absurd life can be. But here's the twist. Schopenhauer thought the very thing that isolates us, our intelligence, could also help us rise above this endless cycle of wanting. The key? Art and deep reflection. He believed that engaging with art gives us a rare escape from the constant demands of the will. Whether it's music, a novel, or a beautiful painting, art lets us experience life without the pressure to achieve or possess anything. In these moments, we're simply aware, present, free. Music, in particular, held a special place for Schopenhauer. He saw it as the highest form of art because it speaks directly to our core, beyond words or rational thought. While other art forms show pieces of the world, music touches something deeper. It connects to the very force of life itself. Think about a time when a song gave you chills or made you cry for reasons you couldn't quite explain. That moment, however brief, likely made everything else fade into the background and made you feel something real, something bigger than yourself. Schopenhauer believed these moments aren't just feel-good distractions. They're glimpses into something beyond the constant struggle, moments where you step outside the usual grind and touch a deeper truth. But there's still more. Schopenhauer believed intelligence could help us develop a mindset he called quieting the will. This means learning to take a step back from the constant pull of wants and goals, and instead choosing to accept life as it is. By doing this, we can find a calm space inside ourselves, untouched by the usual noise. Letting go of the need to chase, fix, or control everything can free us from that never-ending cycle of craving and disappointment. Of course, this is a lot easier to talk about than to actually do. We live in a world that constantly praises ambition, hustle, and the endless chase for success. So, the idea of slowing down or stepping away from that pressure can feel almost rebellious. But Schopenhauer's insights remind us that real fulfillment doesn't come from always achieving more or knowing everything. It comes from letting go of constant craving, unrealistic expectations, and the obsessive need to explain or control everything around us. So let me ask you, have you ever felt crushed by the pressure to always do better, to climb higher, to prove yourself over and over again? What if the answer isn't to pile more on your plate, but to take things off of it? What if happiness is actually found in doing less, not more? Take a moment to think about that. And if you're feeling brave, share your thoughts. This is the kind of conversation that really matters. As we move forward, we'll look at how Schopenhauer's ideas connected with other great thinkers, and how his thoughts on intelligence have shaped modern psychology and philosophy. There's a reason his work has stood the test of time. It speaks to the most basic struggles of being human, and it offers a roadmap to peace that still holds up today. And here's the surprising thing. While a lot of Schopenhauer's views might sound dark or even cynical at first, they actually lead to something freeing. By seeing the downsides of intelligence and learning how to calm the inner drive that pushes us constantly forward, we can find a kind of clarity and peace most people never even realize is possible. But how do we actually use these ideas in our daily lives? How can Schopenhauer's wisdom help us change how we relate to our minds, our ambitions, and the way we live? Stick with me, because this next part might be the most important. Let's talk about how to take these deep ideas and make them part of your everyday routine. If you've ever felt stuck in your own head or overwhelmed by your thoughts, this is where his philosophy can offer some real tools for peace and clarity. For Schopenhauer, the first big step is awareness. You have to start noticing how the will, this endless force that drives us to want, to chase, to grasp, shows up in your life. Most people spend their days running after money, recognition, or status, assuming that once they reach those goals, they'll finally feel good. But as Schopenhauer pointed out, even when we get what we want, the satisfaction fades fast. The mind just moves on to the next thing, keeping us trapped in a loop of never-ending wanting. To break free of that, he suggested something radical. Stop focusing outward and look inward instead. Begin to really notice your desires. Ask yourself, why do I want this? What do I think it'll give me? A lot of the time, you'll realize these goals come from social pressure or temporary urges, not something your soul truly needs. This kind of self-reflection helps you loosen the grip of the will. But just being aware isn't enough. Schopenhauer also talked about building a sense of mindful detachment. That doesn't mean checking out or not caring about life. It means learning to be present and engaged without getting totally swept up in every thought or emotion. One way to do that is through meditation, or just spending quiet time reflecting. When you sit still and just watch your thoughts come and go, you begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You create space between you and the mental noise, and that space is where peace begins to grow. Over time, this habit can help you stay more grounded and centered, even when life gets messy. Schopenhauer also believed in feeding your mind with things that truly nourish it, especially through art and deep thinking. He saw music, literature, and philosophy not just as entertainment, but as tools to lift us above the suffering caused by the will. When you lose yourself in a powerful piece of music or a meaningful book, you're stepping outside the everyday rush and connecting with something timeless. These aren't just moments of escape. They're moments where we see a higher truth beyond all the noise and stress. Another way Schopenhauer's ideas matter today is in how we relate to other people. One of the downsides of intelligence, as we've talked about, is that it can leave you feeling lonely or out of sync with others. Smart people often feel like outsiders, like no one really gets them. Schopenhauer had a beautiful answer to that: compassion. He believed the path to deeper connection is seeing the shared pain we all carry. When you look at others not as rivals or annoyances, but as people struggling just like you, something shifts. You don't have to dull your intelligence or pretend to be someone you're not. But you can use your insight to build bridges, show empathy, and create real, meaningful relationships. Now let's touch on one of Schopenhauer's more intense ideas: renunciation. He believed that true freedom doesn't come from chasing after our desires. It comes from loosening our grip on them, and more importantly, letting go of the ego itself. This idea, heavily shaped by Buddhist thought that Schopenhauer greatly admired, sees the ego as the core of our suffering. Always craving attention, achievement, and control, the ego keeps us restless. By softening its hold, we can finally experience a deeper kind of peace. That said, letting go doesn't mean walking away from life or isolating yourself from the world. It's more about facing life with openness and humility. Instead of obsessing over what we want or fearing what we can't control, we begin to meet life as it is. And that, Schopenhauer believed, is where true wisdom and freedom begin. Let me ask you, how often do you find your mind stuck on future worries or past regrets? How much time do you spend stressing over things you can't really change? Now imagine what it would be like to just stop. Stop fighting, stop clinging, and simply let yourself be. That kind of stillness is the peace Schopenhauer invites us to discover. And here's the surprising twist. Although his ideas are often seen as bleak, they're actually full of power. Schopenhauer taught that by facing life's harder truths and making peace with them, we open the door to a more genuine kind of happiness. Not the kind that depends on things going our way, but a deeper joy rooted in clarity, acceptance, and the calming of our inner drive. As we near the end of this journey through Schopenhauer's thoughts, one question naturally rises. What does it really mean to live an intelligent life? His answer might challenge what we usually believe. True intelligence, in his eyes, wasn't about hoarding facts or solving tough problems. It was about wisdom. It was about grasping the true nature of life, with all its contradictions, and learning how to find peace in the middle of it all. So as we wrap up this reflection on intelligence and its hidden cost, I want to leave you with this. Being smart is a gift, but it's also a choice. You can use it to chase status and success, or you can use it to grow into someone who understands life deeply and lives with calm and intention. If any of this speaks to you, take a second to share your thoughts. How do Schopenhauer's ideas land with you? Have you ever felt both the burden and blessing of intelligence? These are the questions that really make us think, and they're worth exploring together. And let's not forget one of Schopenhauer's most powerful teachings. Sometimes, the most important truths aren't about what we gain, but about what we're finally willing to release. So let's pull together the pieces of insight we've gathered and look at how his philosophy can reshape the way we see intelligence and life itself. Schopenhauer's ideas show us something both tough and freeing. The pursuit of knowledge is noble, yes, but it doesn't guarantee happiness. In fact, it often brings us face to face with life's harshest realities. But that awareness can also lift us beyond the surface of life and offer something greater. To truly take his wisdom to heart, we need to live by a few key ideas. First, accept that life holds both joy and pain. Schopenhauer taught that life is always a mix. Bright moments and dark ones. Happiness and heartache. The smart way to live isn't to fight that truth, but to understand it. Every happy moment carries the possibility of loss, and every sorrow can lead to growth. Accepting this balance doesn't mean giving up. It means being real. It means showing up for life as it is, not how we wish it would be. When we stop expecting life to be endlessly joyful, we stop being disappointed when it's not. That shift lets us enjoy the peaceful moments more fully, because we know they're rare and beautiful. Second, there's the lesson of detachment. Schopenhauer came back to this again and again. So much of our pain, he said, comes from holding on too tightly to dreams, to people, to titles, even to who we think we are. Detachment doesn't mean walking away from these things. It means not letting them own us. Think of it like holding a butterfly. If you grip it hard, you crush it. But if you hold it gently, you get to enjoy it. That's what detachment is, being fully present in life without becoming tangled in it. Third, pursue something deeper. For Schopenhauer, things like art, philosophy, and inner reflection weren't just hobbies, they were lifelines. They gave us a break from the endless noise of the will and helped us connect to something timeless. Whether it's getting lost in music, reading a moving book, or just sitting quietly with your thoughts, these moments let you rise above the noise and glimpse a kind of truth that the rush of everyday life hides. When you dive into a beautiful piece of music, get lost in the pages of an amazing novel, or sit quietly in deep thought, you're not running away from life. You're actually making it richer. You're tapping into something timeless and universal, something that goes beyond your day-to-day self. In those moments, you break free from your usual limits and connect with something far greater. And that's the kind of depth Schopenhauer believed we should all seek out. Another core idea he shared was the power of compassion. He saw it as one of the most meaningful ways we can connect with each other. When we recognize that everyone around us is facing their own struggles, we stop seeing life as me versus them and start opening our hearts. Compassion lets us step outside of our own bubble and offer kindness and empathy to those around us. And the magic is, it doesn't just help others, it changes us too. It softens the edges of loneliness and makes us feel part of something bigger. Intelligence can sometimes make us feel alone, but compassion brings us back to each other. It's how we contribute to a world that feels a bit gentler, a bit more human. Then there's the idea of quieting the mind and the will. Schopenhauer didn't suggest that we escape life. Instead, he believed the real goal was to find peace within it. That peace, he said, comes from quieting the endless stream of wants and cravings inside us. Things like mindfulness, meditation, or even just spending quiet time outdoors can help us get there. Picture yourself by a calm lake, watching the still water reflect the sky. In that kind of moment, everything feels simple and whole. Your mind slows down, your worries fade, and for a little while, you feel totally at ease. That's the kind of inner peace Schopenhauer believed was possible. if we learn to let go of the noise. So now, as we wrap up this journey through Schopenhauer's thoughts on intelligence, let's go back to the question we started with. Is intelligence a gift or a burden? The truth is, it's both. It can make us feel cut off, weighed down, and painfully aware of life's harder truths. But it can also lift us up, free us, and connect us to something beautifully deep and mysterious. The real choice is how we use it. Intelligence can pull us into suffering, or it can guide us toward growth, understanding, and compassion. Schopenhauer's ideas push us to see that real wisdom doesn't come from running away from life, but from fully embracing it. Messy, beautiful contradictions, and all. As you move forward, take a minute to think about how this applies to you. How will you use your intelligence, not just to analyze the world, but to help shape it into something more meaningful? How will you find stillness amid the chaos and purpose in the everyday? And maybe most importantly, how will you connect with the people around you? Not in spite of your intellect, but because of the depth and understanding it brings. If these ideas speak to you, don't let the conversation end here. Share your own thoughts, your stories, your questions. Let's keep exploring together. Because like Schopenhauer said, sometimes life's deepest truths come from embracing the very things that seem to contradict each other. Intelligence doesn't just weigh us down. It can also light the way to a life that's more honest, more peaceful, and more real. Thanks for being part of this.